In the words of Taylor Swift, you're on your own, kid. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emma. If you're new, if you're not new, welcome back. Today's video I'm really excited for because we are going to be doing a 1-year post-grad reflection. I graduated a year ago today on the day that this video is posted on May 5th of 2023. And since then, it's definitely been interesting. Let's just get into this video because I have a lot of things to talk about. So where I went to school, I went to Roosevelt University in Chicago, Illinois, and I majored in musical theater with a concentration in dance. Very, very specific major. Audition process was crazy. I applied to 14 schools and I got 6 auditions, did not pass any of my pre-screens, and then I got waitlisted at one school and I got into Roosevelt. So Roosevelt was the only school I got into. This was like my dream since like middle school. I wanted to do theater when I found out it was a job in 8th grade, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So it was a really big deal, and I went through, I got my BFA last year, yay. This has been my first year out of college. So how I felt after graduation, I didn't think past college. So I got to the end of college and I felt like there was just a big black hole of nothing, and I was like, great, what am I supposed to do with myself? One side of me was like, oh my god, what is gonna happen? Like, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna do all of that, like, I'm gonna do everything wrong. The other side of me was like, oh my god, I can do whatever I want. Just overwhelming at all times. I also felt like really sad. You go to school in your college town or whatever and you all move away after school. And that's what happened. I stayed, but a lot of my close friends either moved home or moved to a different state for their job or like whatever. They all moved away pretty much. But I was really sad about that, and I had not gotten hired at any theater. I hadn't booked any shows or anything. And I felt like, from a social media perspective, I felt like I was the only one who hadn't booked anything, which is not true. I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome in terms of my job, my career. And then I also was very, 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 very burnt out. I didn't really realize at the time, but like my body and my brain was like, you need to stop. So that's kind of how I was feeling after. However, I had a couple options. I was like, I could either move home and pay rent there, or I could stay in Chicago and pay rent here and figure out what my next steps are. And so I did stay here. What I did for the first 6 months after graduation to help me like get settled, I got a sublet for the summer. I actually sublet from one of my friends, and I decided that it would be best for me to pay up front for the 3 months so I could focus on finding a more stable job. I didn't know where I wanted to live, and so I got a full-time barista job at the now infamous Foxtrot, and I worked there until about 6 months out of graduation. When I did find my apartment that I am in, I called every business within the area, and that's what led me to the jobs where I currently work. That is really what helped me at least feel like I have something solid when everything else kind of felt like crazy. This was my first time living alone, and I had lived with people my whole life. I lived with my family up until I moved to college, and then I had roommates through college. So this year has been my first year living alone, and I've definitely learned a lot. Living alone is very hard. I'm not gonna lie and say it's easy and so fun and like the most amazing thing, because I didn't find it to be the most amazing thing ever or easy at all. I enjoy it, I like it, but I do prefer living with people. The best parts about living alone, you can form your own routines and habits around your schedule only. You don't have to like rely on like, oh, somebody slept through their alarm and then they need the bath, you know, like just things you deal with like roommates or family or whatever, whoever you live with. I like listening to podcasts and music, getting to watch those out loud. And then I got to decorate my apartment exactly like how I envisioned my apartment to look like. I feel like this is really my first place that I've like just really embodies who I am. I love how I decorated my apartment. And then the worst parts about living alone, the cons, it is so expensive. It is so insanely expensive. For me personally, I live in Chicago. Obviously it's a city. Chicago's pretty expensive. It's not as expensive as New York or LA. My current rent is $1,200 plus Wi-Fi and electric are not included, so I also pay for that. It's not impossible because I've obviously been here for a year. I don't have as much flexibility with my schedule. Like if I want to go to an audition that happens in the middle of my workday or at the end of my workday, and I can't necessarily always afford to do that. That is like my biggest con, I would say. If you can financially do it, go for it, girl. I'm a little bit more introverted as like my personality. It can be very isolating, especially if you're introverted. Like there's days that I can go without talking to anybody, and it is sometimes very lonely to come home and nobody's here. Parts of it I do enjoy because sometimes I just don't want to talk to anybody, see anybody, you know, but there's some days where I'm like, God, I wish I like had a friend to debrief with. The last thing I have is safety. I do feel like I'm on guard more. Would I recommend living alone? I think, like I said, if you can financially afford it, I think living alone is a good experience that you should do at least once. I really grew into myself and got to know myself better by living alone. I also was able to get myself comfortable going places alone. A year ago, I don't think I would have thought I would get used to being able to just like make myself do it and push myself through and prove to myself like, you're fine, it's fine, you can get through this, like people do this every day, has really helped me with that anxiety. So the next thing is friendships. When I graduated last year, the first thing I had to say goodbye to were some of my closest friends that I had made. A lot of my friends, like I think I mentioned, moved away, and I was really scared that we would drift apart because I'm kind of an out of sight, out of mind person. Not that I don't think about my friends, but if we're not talking every day, it's really easy to just drift apart. I knew this about myself going in, so I was like, okay. So I feel like I've really made more of a point to, at the very least, text my friends, texting them more often than maybe I did when we were in school and we saw each other every day. It helped me a lot with feeling solid in those friendships still, even a year out. Senior year, I seriously burnt myself out. On top of being a full-time student, I submitted or went to over 40 auditions in the span of like 3 to 4 months. When I graduated and I had a break, I was like, you know, I don't actually know if I can do this or want to do this anymore. And I almost quit completely. I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And if I'm being very honest, I had not taken a dance class consistently until about a month ago. I don't think I realized how much dancing for a grade would affect me until I started dancing again for myself and like my training. I put a lot of pressure on myself in school to do well. Academic validation is like what fueled me. After I graduated, I was like, what is gonna fuel me? And it really has to be yourself. My advice to anyone in a BFA or going into a BFA program, auditions will come and go. Life does not end if you don't go to an audition. I really wish that I had taken more time to spend with my friends and enjoy my last year or last semester of college instead of forcing myself to do some auditions that I knew I would not take the job for. If I met myself a year ago today, I would be like, girl, stop listening to Boy Genius and stop crying. It's fine. No, but maybe hold off on the Boy Genius till later. I think my biggest thing that I would say to myself a year ago is that life does not end after you graduate. You will continue living life. Actually, you'll have more time to do things that you enjoy and are passionate about. Everything's gonna be okay. You'll figure it out. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel like your life is in limbo. It's a huge transition. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. I'd also say that it's normal as an actor or performer or whatever to have a survival job. The last thing would be that you are no less of a performer because you had to take a break. Because if you hadn't taken that break, probably would have quit. But now that I have taken that break and I went back on my own terms, not as a punishment, I am so much better off. But yeah, I think that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some advice out of it. I know it was kind of all over the place. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, if you're graduating, congratulations, you did it. A salute to you. Enjoy no finals. Unless you're going to grad school, then I don't know what to tell you about that. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. Bye.